Hello, everyone! Welcome to the first episode of Star Wars Discussions. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Dan and I talking Star Wars weekly. Here's a thing that I never, ever thought would happen. As I have gone on record lots of times to say, am not a giant Star Wars guy. I was always a little bit apprehensive about even talking about it because I'm not an expert. I feel like I always felt like I didn't really know enough to talk about Star Wars. And Dan changed my mind because at least Dan changed my mind on talking about Star Wars regularly with Dan.
Well, I'm glad I have that kind of effect on you.
Because Dan and I did a commentary for A New Hope quite a while back, and I really enjoyed talking about it with Dan and thought of all kinds of things I'd never thought of before with that, and we did the other two, and I really loved doing that. And then I heard about this show, and seeing when it was set and where we seem to be going with episode 7 and everything, I was interested in it. And Dan watched the pilot, said he really liked it, and I said, you know what? Let's do another one. Let's do another discussion show. Let's talk about Star Wars. And we're putting this under the banner of Star Wars discussion so that when other Star Wars things come out, if we want to talk about them, we can also do that on this show. So anyway, Dan, let's jump right into Rebels, man. You of course, much bigger Star Wars fan than me. You know a lot more about all the stuff they decanonicized that doesn't count anymore. I'm just messing with you. And the films, of course, and all of that, way more than I do. Right out the gate, just with my limited knowledge, I felt like I was watching a show that was reminding me of why I liked Star Wars in the first place.
I'm 100% with you on that sentiment. In preparation for this discussion show, I watched the pilot and loved it so much that I went on to DisneyXD.com and was watching a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And this is executively produced by one Greg Weisman, the guy who did Spectacular Spider-Man, Young Justice, Gargoyles, all those great shows. But it's also executively produced by Simon Kinberg, the guy that co-produced and wrote X-Men Days of Future Past, and he wrote the pilot for this. And they talk a lot about their reverence for the original trilogy, and at least for this season, they might move on to trying to capture the feel of the other individual movies specifically. But right out of the gate, they said they wanted to make a show that felt like A New Hope, tone and character-wise, and I feel like they succeeded in every aspect possible. We got this story about this kid who's kind of like a combination of Han and Luke. He's a little bit roguish, but at the same time, he's naive, and you can tell he wants to aspire to bigger and better things, but he doesn't have the opportunity. And he's given the opportunity. He goes up on this spaceship, and he's going to have adventures. It's Star Wars. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, you brought up the one point that I had that I thought was kind of cool. That's cool. That Ezra is kind of a combination of Luke and Han, which may seem like kind of an obvious place to go, but I like the idea of a rogue character, because there's lots of those in Star Wars. The rogue character who could be a Jedi and has the potential to be a Jedi, but has to find that self confidence that Luke did, and has to kind of fight against being about nothing but self preservation. These are really appropriate themes to explore when we're in this period, this early period of the Empire.
Yeah, and I love that this show, it's more intimate and small because obviously the Rebel Alliance hasn't formed yet. They don't even, this is the Rebel Alliance. For those who don't know, the concept of the show is this crew is going to form what we know as the Rebel Alliance that as it exists in episode 4. So the Rebel Alliance is just a ship of people at this point, and there's a bunch of rebel groups, but they're not organized at all. And these are the guys that are presumably going to organize them. And I like how we get to see the Empire through the eyes of everyday people, and you see exactly how oppressive they are, other than large scale things like them blowing up planets and stuff. You get to see Tarkin towns, poverty stricken towns of people that were their land was taken from them, that were farmers. It reminds me of the Hoover homes from the Great Depression in American history. And then you see how in the second episode they talk about Zeb, who is a Lasat, and his people were entirely killed off, except for small numbers of them by the Empire, in order to use their planet to mine the natural resources and stuff. they do a lot of very evil things, and you can see why. You know, the Empire is outwardly oppressive in a kind of vague way, other than the like I said, really grandiose things they do in the movies. But I like that we get to see the effect that the Empire has on everyday people in this. That was probably my favorite thing about it.
I agree that was one of the things that we complained about when we were doing our commentaries on the original trilogy. Was there's all this talk about how oppressive the Empire is, but how much of it do you really get to see?
Exactly.
That okay, it sucks that they're blowing up planets, but other than that, people do seem to be kind of living okay, in some places. I don't know. I
Right.
guess. So I mean, like that's a thing that we get to see a lot more in this show, and I don't know, right out the gate, and I don't want to say that like everything I'm liking about the show is novelty. I like that it's about stuff, and there's a story that I can grasp onto, and there are central characters, because that was a problem that for me the prequels had, but also Clone Wars. The few episodes I've seen of that, I've jumped around. I've tried to get into that show, and most of the time when I've watched it, it's been like just kind of okay. Here's a random thing that's happening somewhere during the Clone Wars, and why do I care?
Yeah.
Where like sometimes the situations are interesting, but it's like completely plot driven. This show is not like that. At the same time, this show is also not trying to be straight up science fiction. It is that science fantasy thing Star Wars was. It's about the kind of the bigger good versus evil ideas, and yes, there's politics stuff. You do have the oppressive government and the impoverished people, and you have questions of morality certainly with the rogues. How do they uphold their values while still staying alive? So I mean that stuff's in there. So we do get to do a little bit of the kind of moral quandary stuff that you get in science fiction, but I do feel like we're kind of going back to the roots of this while exploring a period that I think needs to be fleshed out after the prequels. So right away, I went, "Oh yay, we got Star Destroyers and Tie Fighters, and it sounds like Star Wars." You know,
Yeah.
the score is magnificent, and like there's a lot of things that you can grab onto for nostalgia, but the stories are living up to it
They
so
are.
far.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the coolest things I think about this story too is like I think this series is doing a really good job of flipping a lot of the concepts and the story bits from the original trilogy, and like turning it on his head and paralleling it in a really cool way. Like the crew of the Millennium Falcon in the original trilogy, it's
Yeah.
captained by a roguish thief kind of guy, and he's forced into this conflict with the Empire that he doesn't really want to be in at first, and he's kind of trepidatious about doing anything other than being self-serving and like um, just getting the money. Where this crew, like, they seem like they want to do good, but they're forced to just look out for themselves because the Empire is so good at suppressing rebellion at this point. And that's kind of like the position that Urs is in at the beginning when they discover him. Like, he's this street rat kind of kid who is meant for bigger things, but he kind of has to steal things because of the situation he's in and the situation that the Empire put him in. It's kind of the opposite of Han's situation at the end of the New Hope and then leading into Empire, where he finally makes a decision to be with the Rebel Alliance full time. That's one of the juxtapositions that I thought was really cool. Because like you have a Jedi on this ship, and like it's interesting to see a Jedi who's all about looking out for just his crew and himself. Like uh, Kanan in here, he's not like big grandiose. Let's go take on the Empire single handedly in this because he knows he can't.
No, and also he's really smart, and I think everybody in this show seems to be pretty smart. They're acting like real people. And by the way, before we go any farther, let
Sure.
me say that I'm impressed and somewhat surprised that we're able to talk about the show on the level that we are, because it is a cartoon show, and it is aimed at little kids.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's important to throw that out there, that it's working on both of those levels. I think this is a wonderful show for kids, in the same way Ninja Turtles is. I think that it has even more going on thematically and character-wise than that show has. And I'm really impressed with it. These are the kinds of shows we should be growing up kids with, challenging them but exciting them. Yay for that, and yay for being able to talk about this on the same level. Pretty much, I think that we can talk about all the live action shows we're doing discussion shows on.
Oh, I'm with you. And like, I was talking about ideas of and you were too, of poverty and genocide in a kids show. Like that's pretty heavy stuff. It's kind of mentioned in passing, but those are concepts that are in the show.
Yeah, and it's not gratuitous.
No,
This
it's
is
not.
not a gratuitously violent show. I like that right out the gate, it's not just let's see a bunch of ships firing each other, or let's see 5,000 lightsabers in a scene. Naturally, you're not going to get that right now because of where we are, in history. But it's not about cool lightsaber fights. When we got a lightsaber fight, there was weight behind it. It mattered. There was a reason for it. Yay! That was really exciting. I like that Kanan is a Jedi, but he's so changed by his situation that first of all, I did not immediately call that he was a Jedi. I should have. Look at his hair. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Like actually, you probably did. I should have.
Yeah, the clothes were a dead giveaway to me too. Like
when
that armor that he wears is pretty typical of Jedi that I've
so
seen.
so what we'll do is let's pretend like you're an adult watching the show, and let's pretend like I'm 7.
Okay.
And then I'll say, hey, cool. I was surprised by that, and then you can be like, yeah, just you'll understand when you're older. But anyway, so when Ezra goes and gets the lightsaber and the cube, I didn't even think, oh, this guy is got to be a Jedi. But I think part of that, besides the fact that I wasn't paying attention to what he was wearing, is that Kanan doesn't act like a Jedi, and he's also. And because he can't, he's conflicted. He's got to take care of his crew, but at the same time, they don't just look out for themselves, because they know that if they don't go up against the Empire and do what little they can to try to fix things, that they're always going to be in this oppressive state that
Yes.
that you can't just like say, oh man, I hate the Empire, and not do something about it and sleep okay at night if you're these people, it seems like. And so I really like that. I like that he doesn't want people to know he's a Jedi. He kind of keeps that under his hat. Now at the point that he finally comes out and shows it, I mean, I enjoyed that scene a lot. It was one of my favorite moments. I kind of questioned it.
Yeah.
Because it's like that seemed like it was more for the audience than for the story, where it's like, oh man, look, this guy's a Jedi, and I was like, I wonder if you couldn't have handled that situation in a way where you wouldn't have had to reveal that. It sort of seemed like like a superhero taking his mask off. I wasn't real sure that made a lot of sense.
I was kind of okay with it just because like he was aware at that point that Ezra and the kid Wookiee, who may or may not be Chewbacca. I'm not really sure.
I wondered that myself. Although, well, actually, let me ask you a question though. Was Chewbacca not a fully grown adult in Episode 3?
He was, so it's not. You're right.
So it's not him. Because I thought that too. At first I went, wait, that's Chewbacca. And then I went, wait, no, he was a fully grown adult in Episode 3.
That's true. And one of the weird things, continuity-wise, in this maybe
He's also named. Come to think of it, at the end of that, they give him a name.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it wasn't. So yeah, I was wrong about that. But one of the other continuity things in the show, which maybe it's in some Clone Wars thing. I was under the impression that C-3PO and R2-D2 were already on the Tantive 4 and weren't under Imperial control at the end of Episode 3. Like, I thought Obi-Wan gave the droids to Senator Organa in the first place.
Isn't that why Organa is in the end of that episode, though? By the way, we didn't mention this, but we're covering the 2-part first episode and then the 3rd episode, because all of those have already happened before we had a chance to make this show. So we're doing all 3 of those. Anyway, I thought that was the big reveal at the end, though, was that like Organa sent them on a mission.
Oh yeah, because R2-D2 did record stuff. That's right. Yeah.
I
thought he was
like, yeah, I was watching that. It was funny too, because I was watching with Jason, because it's Star Wars and it's great for kids, and he was really excited to see it. And 10 minutes into the first episode, Jason said, "Are we gonna get R2-D2?" Jason loves R2-D2. He's like, "Are we gonna get R2-D2?" We got to the 3rd episode, and he went, "Yay, it's R2-D2!" And the first thing I thought was, That's a little early. The galaxy always seems smaller with R2D2 and C3PO because they're always at every important thing.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what it is, they always show up to the important stuff just because they don't age and they can. And then you get to the end of that episode and Organa reveals himself, and I went, oh, no, they're doing something with this.
Yeah, yeah, okay, so I just didn't read the scene correctly because I was just kind of taking C-3PO's reaction at face value, I suppose, and maybe he wasn't privy to what they were doing because C-3PO is always kind of like in the dark when R2-D2 is trying to do something smart. Um,
Yay for C3PO being a translator.
yes, I really liked that too.
There's a lot of stuff in this where I think that they're walking a thin line and doing a very good job of it, of keeping all the prequel stuff in canon and like using it and making it feel like it worked better than I think it did,
Yeah.
but then also like erring on the side of they'll err on the side of, well, the original trilogy matters more, so if they're in conflict, we're going to go with what the original trilogy said.
Yeah, exactly. So that was that. Yeah, I'm with you. That was really cool to see, and like I like the what we've seen of not just the main characters like Ezra and Kanan, but I really like the supporting cast as well in this.
Yeah, me too.
Like I was just really pleased that we have such a ragtag group of people. They're not all humans like they are in the original trilogy, with the exception of Chewbacca and the droids. We have a Mandalorian in here, Sabine, the female explosives expert, and Mandalorians, as you know, is one of my favorite races because that's what Boba Fett's a Mandalorian, and they're partly based on Spartan warrior culture. So I was really pleased to see that one of the supporting cast members is going to be a Mandalorian. And then we have a Twi'lek in here, Hera, who's kind of like the um, voice of reason and maternal figure for everyone. I really liked her. She doesn't have a whole lot to do, but she like gives advice to everyone and grounds everyone. I liked her a lot. And
She is this show's Agent May from
yes,
Shield.
yes, I think she's obviously a little warmer than Agent May is.
She got a little warmer later, little, not by much. But yeah, yeah, sure. I was confused on that. Did she also used to be a Jedi, or is she something else?
I'm not sure that they've really talked about that. It's interesting. Like, if we're keeping the prequels in canon here, Jedi aren't supposed to have lovers, and you get the sense that her and Kanan are together from the dialogue scenes that they have.
Yes.
But I'm not sure if she has Jedi training or not. I don't think so. But they haven't
See,
really
I
come out and said anything specifically as to whether or not she is.
See, I feel like this could be a really interesting thing for Kanan because I feel like he is a Jedi, but he's not a Jedi. Like things have gone so downhill, and there are, as far as he knows, not very many or any others left. I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to be interesting to see if he knows where anybody else is. Obviously he knows about Obi-Wan, but that's about it. Obi-Wan and probably Yoda. But like what I'm thinking is he's trying to like somewhat cling to those ideals, but he's also allowing himself to compromise them so that he can keep his sanity, maybe.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking, so like he's trying to keep the ship together. So he's doing things that Jedi would never do because they'd go against their values. But then but then at the same time, I think maybe he's also like breaking that vow of celibacy just to keep his sanity. Like maybe that just makes things easier for him.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the Empire as a sort of world change, well, not world changing because we're in the entire galaxy here, but in the sense that like the kind of place that people live in this universe is so changed by the militarization and oppressiveness of the Empire. Like you're right, like those are the kind of thing, like that's what most of the characters when we're introduced to them are all about, right? Like I would imagine that like Kanan would rather stick to his ideas, or Ezra would rather find a place in society that he sees value in, but nobody can find those because the Empire is just so corrupt and so oppressive, and they do things that they would not normally do in order to survive and kind of keep their humanity at the same time. Because like all of the people that we see that are working with the Empire, they're all either corrupt jerks or like this nobility, like that are completely out of touch with the plight of everybody else. Um, so like that's the kind of things that they do. Like Sabine would probably much rather be, a Mandalorian bounty hunter or, be
Yeah.
with the Mandalorians, but she does this because the Empire doesn't allow her to do those things.
Yeah, that was the big thing I wondered with her was at first I wondered if she used to be a bounty hunter and like for some reason decide because there are bounty hunters in the Empire. I mean, maybe she just couldn't find a place with the Empire, or maybe not every bounty hunter is different. Maybe like she still has a code of ethics that just doesn't allow for what has happened, and so she's going against them. But then I wondered if because we're not told anything about her really. I kind of wondered if is she a bounty hunter or is she just dressed like one or like what exactly is going? But the fact that she's a Mandalorian, she probably is a bounty hunter.
Not all Mandalorians are bounty hunters. They just have kind of like a warrior culture where
The
that's
fact that
like,
she's a Mandalorian and wearing that stuff means she was probably a bounty hunter.
well, that's Mandalorian armor. Like all the Mandalorians wear armor that looks like that, not just Mandalorian
Oh,
bounty hunters.
so she might not be a bounty hunter.
Right. So yeah, we don't really know too much about, what her background was other than the fact that she likes to blow stuff up, which is really funny. I really like that kind of quirk in her character. And
She is
one of the
immediately sorry.
I was just going to say one of the behind the scenes things I watched, which I didn't really catch on to when I was first watching them, is they made a point of making her the first character in Star Wars that's interested in art, where she's like uses graffiti to like draw the rebel symbol on everything and stuff. And that's going to be something that's going to play into her character later on. Apparently, they show like her bunk and it's all like decorated with like spray paint and stuff. And that I think that's a really cool character trait too.
That's one of the things I was going to say is she's like obsessed with color, and I think that's
Yeah.
really cool. And she's got like weird color schemes and like she seems like kind of contemporary free spirit in that like she has like multiple hair colors in her hair, and like her armor has graffiti on it almost like tattoos.
Yeah, that's true.
So she's got kind of this like punk rock thing going on, and I think that like that's okay. There were a couple places that I kind of questioned where I was like, I don't know if people in Star Wars say cool. And then I thought about it and I went, I think like there is in the original trilogy, I think for the most part the language is kind of like universal, and it's not like original series Star Trek where it's kind of heightened and everybody speaks a little bit more formally, but it's kind of like universal. There's not a lot of modern slang, but then there are places where people do kind of seem to talk a little bit more contemporary modern, like in the 70s, and of course they brought in more of that with the prequels. I think that there's enough precedence for it. It's okay, but I question that. I was like, do people in Star Wars say cool?
Yeah, that's something I kind of wondered about too. Um, but I was liking all the other things in the show so much that I kind of rolled with it.
Oh, I'm with
That
you.
would have,
No, it's not even a
but I'll
complaint.
be
Just
like,
question about
it's
it. Yeah,
it's
I
one of
just
those
question.
cases where it was like, if that was in an episode that was really bad, I probably would have picked it out. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. If it was terrible, you'd be like, and they say cool.
yeah, exactly. It's one of those instances.
Do
I
you
think.
think?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, no. Go ahead, man.
I was gonna move on to Zeb and start talking about him, but if you have anything else to say about Sabine,
Well, before you do that, let me kind of back this off a bit and look at the crew on the whole and ask you: do you think that they're attempting to kind of make everybody in this somewhat analogous to the crew of the Millennium Falcon?
that's an interesting point.
Because they because you mentioned earlier that they already kind of have that motif going, except that they're right away all of them interested in as somebody says, sticking it to the Empire, with the exception of the Han Solo analogous guy, but he's also Luke Skywalker. So when you have both of those in one character, can they all possibly be analogous? Like I kind of feel like there's a little bit of characters are analogous, but they're also like turned on their head or just different. Like I feel like they're calling attention to the fact that Zeb is the stand-in for Chewbacca, even though he's smart, because he's their big guy. He's the big rough and tumble guy that can attack people. But he's also based on the original conceptual artwork for Chewbacca.
Yeah, which is really cool.
And then they have that place in the second episode, I think it is, where he pretends like he's a hairless Wookiee, which cracked me up. So like they're really drawing attention to he's kind of their stand-in for Chewbacca, except he's nothing like Chewbacca. So I wonder if they're not trying to do some of that. And I kind of thought that their ship was a little bit reminiscent of the Millennium Falcon.
Oh yeah, they definitely do have a freighter model ship of some kind. So yeah, it's definitely got that going on. I just don't know that we know enough about some of the periphery characters yet to for me to say whether I know if they're going to be analogous or not. But there's definitely like we said, the thing going on with Ezra and Luke and Han. I think maybe Kanan might have an Obi-Wan thing going on to some degree, but he's just not as he doesn't have as much conviction as Obi-Wan did.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like he has the potential to be a really good teacher, because I feel like he has morals, and he knows where the line is where he won't cross. I never really would question that with that character from what we've gotten him from so far, but I feel like it's just kind of he doesn't have a code of like beliefs in terms of the Jedi thing. Like the ethics are there, but the Jedi stuff isn't. Whereas Obi-Wan always had the conviction, like the Jedi way is the way to do things, and this is the only way to go about it.
Yeah. What else you want to talk about?
We haven't really touched on the villains yet, and we haven't even gotten introduced to our main big bad, who is going to be the Inquisitor, who is like an assassin for the Empire. I think is a cool idea. He's not a Sith, so he doesn't have enough dark side training to be as powerful as the Emperor or Vader, of course. But he does wield a red lightsaber and has some sort of proficiency with the Force, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
But we do get introduced to Agent Callus, who's an Imperial intelligence agent, kind of like one of the agencies from dictatorships that crush dissent within their borders. And I think he's a really interesting character. His design immediately struck me because he looks like he has mutton chops from the 19th century. I was
I
like,
said the same thing. I couldn't believe he had mutton chops. He looked like who's the guy in X-Men who leads the sorry, suddenly I gotta shift my brain to X-Men. There's a villain in X-Men who has mutton chops. I can't think of it. I think I can't think of who I'm thinking of. Anyway, move on. I couldn't believe that he had mutton chops.
Yeah, I thought that was a really funny quirk.
Besides Wolverine. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but I don't know. I thought that character was really interesting, especially when you get to the second episode where he talks about how he ordered the killing of Zeb's people, and I don't know. He seems like one of those guys. He's will do anything possible to rise politically in the system, and I think that'll be a really interesting thing to see, like how officers rise within the Imperial system, other than like somebody screws up and Darth Vader chokes them, and then the next guy gets promoted. Like that's as basic as it is in the original trilogy, because we're viewing it from the top down. But I think it'll be interesting to see like this guy's obviously already kind of a high-ranking officer, but I think it would be cool to see that guy like do terrible things and rise through the ranks of the Empire as he's chasing these rebels across the galaxy.
Yeah, I thought his naming was interesting and kind of funny because in the tradition of Vader means father and like Grievous is obvious. Like we always have these really traditional. I mean, we have this tradition in Star Wars where like everything that's important about the character is in their name, even if it's blatantly obvious. This guy's name is Callus.
Yeah, that is really funny.
That's awesome because he's a genocidal maniac. And that's Callus. In fact, I think his name is an understatement.
Yes, it is, and like I think it's a really interesting like part of his character too, where he's carrying the weapon that the honor guard of Zeb's race carry, and he like modifies it and almost kills him with it. Like that's gonna be like the worst death that an honor guard can die from. I would imagine in the view of Zeb's people. They don't really go into much detail about it, but I thought that was a lot heavier than possibly when I had initially watched it. I was like, I thought about it a little bit later. I was like, wow, that would have been a really sad and depressing scene if he had actually died there.
Well, and I didn't think of that part of it, but yeah. So if he has no respect for anyone and like no code or anything, he like gets off on killing people in the most disrespectful way possible. His name makes even more sense.
Yes, it does.
He's callous. Anyway, I love stuff like that. It totally
Oh,
cracks
me
me up.
too. And I'm gonna be really excited to see when the Inquisitor shows up, and I think the show's being really smart about um, not showing the Inquisitor right away because they want it to be a big deal when he shows up.
Yeah.
We do get a little bit of him talking in a hologram chat with Agent Callus, and he's voiced by Jason Isaacs, the guy who plays Draco's dad in the Harry Potter movies, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
This cast is amazing. I can't believe some of the people they got for this. Like clearly, I mean, like our main Jedi guy is Freddie Prinze Jr. Like they're not running this like a kids show, are they?
No, they're not. And let me tell you something that's going to blow your mind. um, they're
James Earl
re-airing,
Jones.
yeah, they're re-airing the pilot on ABC, and they got James Earl Jones to do an extra Vader scene.
I know that's crazy. I wondered if Obi-Wan was the same voice.
It's not. That's the guy from Clone Wars. They have a
Is
different
it the
voice
guy from
actor.
Clone Wars?
Yeah.
Well, that guy is just such a good voice match
Oh, he
that
is.
it
I
was
like him a lot.
hard to tell right away. Because at first I was like, I don't know if that's not the same guy. And like when I saw Clone Wars, I could tell the difference, but here I couldn't.
Yeah, he was really good.
Maybe he got better at it, or maybe he likes the show more. I don't know.
I mean, I don't blame him. He didn't get all that much to do, but I think the scripts are immediately better than anything I had ever seen in Clone Wars. And to be fair, I haven't watched through that whole show, so
I
I
don't
don't
hate
want
Clone Wars. Like I said, there were things I saw in it that I liked of what I watched, but I mean, like, I don't know, the storytelling in this is just smarter, and I really appreciate the long form thing. I mean, like, we're back to the tradition of Star Wars storytelling in that it's serialized. You know, I mean, like that's Star Wars. It is week to week serialized, but you know they're going back to that movie serial thing of you have a new chapter every week. I'm glad they're not numbering them week to week, but
to. Yeah, exactly. Uh, I don't know. I'm just really impressed with the production values of the show. Like, we haven't really talked about the animation style.
yeah,
But
which is not my favorite thing. I like I'm already used to it because of things like Ninja Turtles and Clone Wars and like the character models are. I'm immediately thinking are a little too cartoony, even for this being a cartoon, and
Mhm.
yet I think Star Wars kind of needs to be in CG because I mean it doesn't have to be, but just when you get into all the ship battles and all that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of really thrilling action. We've not talked about that, but this is a very action driven kind of show, and like all that stuff, it's really easy to kind of get sucked into it and forget you're looking at a cartoon because it's kind of realistic looking, a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of really like the way that the characters are designed and stuff like this. Like, I love the way the stormtroopers look. I love the way the TIE
Oh
fighters
yeah.
look. Like, all of that stuff. Like, it's stylized to some degree, but it's not different enough that you like look at it and you're like, this doesn't look enough like the designs from the movies. And when you get the classic sound effects going on with the combination of those designs, I don't know. I had a nostalgia trip just like you did, listening to the battles go on where you hear like um, Han Solo's gun effect going off and killing a stormtrooper, because I thought that was cool. They took the sound effect from Han's gun and gave it to Kanan's gun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like little details like that. I was like, that's pretty cool.
It's interesting that you say that because I wonder if things like that are, and maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I wonder if things like that aren't meant to make us look at Kanan and think that like he's an amalgam of characters just like Ezra is.
Yeah, maybe
You
he's a
know?
little bit more like mature Han and Luke melded together.
Yeah, or mature Han and Obi-Wan
Yeah, but like I'm talking
or
about like
something.
Jedi Master Luke Skywalker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because Jedi Master Luke Skywalker in Jedi is kind of unsure of himself, just like Kanan is in the show.
Oh, that's a good point you're making. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to get more of his history because I wonder, do we know yet if he was a master?
I'm not sure actually. That's a good
Because we're,
question.
we're told he's a Jedi, but is it not possible that, like, because he looks kind of middle aged. Like, isn't it possible that he was just a Padawan, and like he's just
Yeah,
one of the only guys left, so he's just acting kind of like a master, but he's not actually a master? I mean, that could be. So I'm just saying, part of his being unsure of himself could be he's not anything like he wasn't anything like his experience as Obi-Wan.
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Clone Wars, one of the things that I really resisted about it in the first place was it gave Anakin a Padawan, and he was a Jedi Master. He was a Jedi Knight, and they don't usually take Padawans. So
Yeah.
just because of that show, and they wanted to introduce that annoying character Padawan that he had, they you know bent the rules. So I don't know what the rules are for this. I would assume that we're just going to go with original trilogy rules, but there aren't really any for that. So I'm not really sure what his deal is.
I have a
We'll have to
question
see.
for you.
Sure.
Are the stormtroopers in this clones or not?
Uh, I can only speak from an expanded universe thing with that. The explanation they give is after the Clone Wars, they take all the clones they have left and make them stormtroopers, and then they do start recruiting actual citizens of the Empire to be stormtroopers to replace the clones from the war.
Yeah,
But
that was kind of the assumption I had, and maybe they just will be ambiguous about it. But like we hear one or two of them talk, and they sound like kind of regular people. I kind of doubted that if you still had clones, or if the one that I'm thinking of that we heard was a clone. He seemed like really super nervous, and he just seemed like a regular guy.
yeah, and I like that because I don't know. I feel like that fits the character of the stormtroopers, at least what we saw in the original trilogy, better than the clones of the Clone Wars. Because like
Yeah,
the
me too.
clones in the Clone Wars show, they can do almost anything skill-wise. Like they're really good at what they do. The stormtroopers can't hit anything in the original trilogy, so it makes more sense for them to be like kind of nervous, bumbling idiots to some degree. And that's one of the scenes you just reminded me that I thought was really funny and really like disheartening at the same time. When after that first encounter with the lightsaber and Agent Callus is hanging off of that structure that he's hanging off of, and the stormtroopers trying to climb up too, and he's like, "Oh, first time seeing a Jedi, sir," and he just kicks him down and dies. I was like, "That's really funny, but really sick at the same time."
Yeah, I like the forgetting the whole clone thing. Like if that never existed at all, and the stormtroopers were all, and even if it does, but they don't have very many, and the stormtroopers were like all regular people. I kind of like the idea that there are so many incompetent ones because I mean that was always a joke people would make about the original Star Wars was like you guys have like this this long firm arm of the Empire, but like there are no competent people among you. And I kind of like the idea that maybe they'd have some competent ones but a whole bunch of not competent ones because they have they're trying to control so much territory that it might be impossible, like having a lot of incompetent stormtroopers would be indicative of how impossible it is to hold all of that. That like they have to it gets to the point
True.
where you have to just employ whoever sends in a resume and like put everybody to work. And I thought that the opening scene or the kind of the opening scene really played that out really well. Where that guy says one thing against the Empire, and they try to take him in for treason, but then the couple of stormtroopers that are there have to go off and do something, so they have to so they end up deciding to leave him alone because they don't have time to take him in. And I was like, yeah, if that's your law, you say anything against the Empire whatsoever, and you get taken in for treason, you'd have overcrowded prisons, you wouldn't have nearly enough people to keep track of them all, and like every stormtrooper is going to be pulled in 1,000 different directions all the time. So like this is immediately indicative of how of a part of why the Empire just can't work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Empire will just have to execute anyone that says something bad against the Empire, and then what do you do with disposing bodies and stuff? Even if you wanted to avoid the prison problem. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it. I like that too. We're already like the Empire has just been established, and we're already seeing the cracks in the foundation.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
very good point. Not that the Republic was perfect, obviously, but it's a matter of like the lesser of two evils, and I think that's one of the points that I think Lucas politically was trying to say with his original draft. Because you look at the prequels, and I think that's what he's trying to say too. But the ideas aren't there enough I don't think, to convey what he's trying to say. But I think, like, he's trying to say that a republic can often be dysfunctional and not work the way you'd like it to, and it's frustrating, and it's having a bunch of bureaucrats do things inefficiently. It may not be the best system, but a militaristic empire with power concentrated in the hands of one man is no better. It's worse. Um, so I like that that idea is kind of subtly in there. Not that Star Wars in its final stages, the original trilogy anyway, was about politics at all. There's like undertones, but that's always what Lucas kind of wanted it to be about, and that's evident. Like me and you, we read some of the comic book that's based on his original script, and it's all about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And like this is finding a midpoint between that.
Yeah, in the same way that I think the original trilogy did. It's just we're viewing that kind of stuff from the ground so more people are concerned with it. Like the Rebel Alliance doesn't have to deal with the politics of the Empire because they refuse to be subjugated by them. These are people that don't have any choice but to be subjugated by it, and you see how it affects them. So yeah, it's all really
Yeah, and
weird.
it's background enough that they're able to just use it for good for good dramatic situations to get these characters motivated and doing things and let us explore the people as opposed to being like really heavy social commentary. At first when I first started watching it, I kind of expected you and I would get into this discussion and it would be all about like social commentary and stuff. It's not that kind of show.
No, it's not. And
Uh,
I'm kind.
I like that. It's still light. It's still light enough that it's Star Wars.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it's thoughtful.
Yeah,
But it is thoughtful about those things. Dan, let's go ahead and go on to best moment, worst moment,
sure.
and we'll just do this for the 3 episodes. Did you have a favorite moment?
I think my favorite moment was Um, probably the moment that the Inquisitor showed up, because I'm just Star Wars villains are one of my favorite things, and I wasn't aware that Jason Isaacs was the voice of the Inquisitor, and I was really happy to hear his voice. I recognized him right away, and the Inquisitor looks really intimidating. I loved the way that they handled him. Like part of Star Wars that fascinates me the most is the culture of the Sith and like their order, how they operate. And I'm really going to be interested to see how this show adds to that sort of mythos because we've never really had mentions of an Imperial Inquisitor before. Someone out of the Spanish Inquisition that kills people for heresy. Like the Empire has never had anyone similar to that before. Anything I've read. I mean, the Emperor's had like personal assassins like Mara Jade and stuff like that in the expanded universe. But I like the idea of the Empire having an Inquisitor, and I don't know the potential of seeing that guy in the future and the way they kind of just teased us with him was probably my favorite moment of the 2 episodes.
Well, and I'm getting ahead of myself when I say this, and I don't like to bring too much early knowledge of stuff we haven't seen yet. But I do want to mention, maybe I shouldn't say this yet, but I do want to mention that it could be really interesting. I just thought of this after you said that guy's supposed to wield a double-sided lightsaber,
Ooh, that's cool.
and Darth Maul was basically that guy for the Emperor.
Yeah, he kind of was.
Like he was the shadowy figure that he would just send out to go murder people, and he never said anything. And I like this guy's gonna talk and stuff, but I'm just saying that isn't it kind of interesting that Darth Vader? Like I like what they're building on from the prequels that he's supposed to be sent out by Vader. If Vader it's almost like Vader looked at what Palpatine did with Darth Maul and decided to get his own Darth Maul.
Yeah, that's true. That's really cool. I didn't think of it that way, but yeah, you're right. It's kind of like that's the guy that Darth Vader sends out to do the jobs that the Emperor wants him to do that he can't be bothered with, that aren't important enough for him.
Oh, that's so cool. I want to ask you about Vader.
Sure.
If they're bringing in James Earl Jones for a coup and trying to get everybody who watched this to watch it again just for that one quick cameo, I'm a little worried that means we're not gonna get Vader in this show.
Oh, I really hope we do. I
Me
hope
too.
while he's in the story. the studio they have him read all his lines so they can just use them.
Oh yeah, me too. Because the worry I had when I heard that was, oh well, if they're going to use James Earl Jones, Vader's not going to be a regular character.
Yeah, and it might be. I figured that Vader wouldn't be the main villain anyway. Like he would kind of be a shadowy figure that the rebels don't deal with directly. Like he would be giving orders to the Inquisitor, and we'd see him every once in a while. That's what I figured his role would be in the first place. Like I
Yeah,
didn't
me
really
too.
see it.
But now I'm afraid that we're only going to see him like once a season, and I kind of hope it's not like that.
Yeah, I hope it's not like Agents of Shield, where we only see Nick Fury once or twice a season.
Yeah, but if they do it like that, and then at the end Vader's in like an entire episode, I'll be fine with that.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome.
If Vader gets his own episode like Nick Fury did, then that would be fine with me. My favorite moment, uh, I don't know. Like I said, I questioned the logic of it, but I got kind of excited when Kanan revealed himself as a Jedi because I'm stupid and I didn't see it coming. For some reason, I also got really jazzed by Obi-Wan's message, especially when we get to hear the rest of it. Uh, and I don't know why. I guess I just didn't really expect that, and I don't know. Maybe sometimes I have this stupid kind of fan nostalgia thing of look, someone I know.
Oh, that's fair.
But like I really liked that like the instructions he gives, and also when we first heard it, I was afraid that was the whole message and thought that would be really stupid. when when we first hear it, and by the way, that's kind of a regular Star Wars thing, weirdly enough, where you get part of a message and then you get the rest of it later.
Yeah,
But
that's
like
fair.
come to think of it, but like at first, all you hear is this message goes out to all Jedi. I just want to remind you to use the Force. I'm
Thanks,
like, guys,
Obi-Wan.
I think they're gonna do that. I don't know. Like they're all going. I don't know if we're supposed to use our powers. Oh, Obi-Wan said it's okay. All right. And then later on, we hear the rest of the message, and I went, oh. After he says, "Don't return to the temple," I went, okay. So there's some meat to this. Anyway, did you have a worst moment?
Worst moment? I don't think so. I have to say, these two episodes I really thoroughly enjoyed. I had a great time watching these.
Me too. I'm so surprised. I'm suddenly in a big Star Wars mood after watching this.
Yeah, I know, right? These two episodes felt like Star Wars more than anything I've read or watched or played Star Wars wise for a while, and that's saying something. Like, there's been good Star Wars, comics coming out of Dark Horse. There's been some pretty good video games, not relatively recently, but there's some great Star Wars games out there. But this more than anything else, I think captured the tone and the feel of the original trilogy the best of maybe any adaptation ever. You know, everything's always got kind of that prequel-itis lightsaber thing where it's like everybody's swinging a lightsaber. There's lightsaber battles all over the place, and that was one of the things that you discussed before that really got me about this one. Like they make the lightsaber duels matter, and they give a reason why Caden doesn't use his lightsaber all the time, and that's like what the original trilogy duels are, and that's what makes them so memorable. Like I can't wait to see what this show's Empire Strikes Back heavy duel looks like, and
Oh
who's
yeah.
fighting who. It's going to be great.
Well, now I agree with you. I think it's really really good, but you're not going to put it over Brian Wood's Star Wars, are you?
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, because when you said everything has had that prequel problem, but not that,
Yeah,
right?
that's not the. I wasn't talking about that specifically.
Oh, okay,
Like,
okay, yeah,
but there's like a lot of things like the Darth Vader miniseries that I've read, for example. That's a story that's all about that character, and I
yeah.
guess if you're focusing on him as a central character, of course he's going to be swinging a lightsaber all the time. But
Yeah.
but like the original trilogy, we're not focusing on a character that's his main weapon, and we're swinging it all the time. And this show smartly chose to focus on someone that can't use a lightsaber all the time.
Something else we haven't said yet, and I'm sure you'd agree with me when I say this, is that something that a lot of the other Star Wars stuff that the original prequels got right have kind of missed is a central protagonist that's a good eyes in window for the audience. This is a kid that's never even been into space, just like Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I think that's good stuff.
No, I do
Uh,
too. I mean, especially since you kind of made the reference before in the prequels and in Clone Wars, where there's not even a central protagonist. Now we
yeah.
just have one, let alone one that's a nice in for the audience.
What's it about? What are the character traits of these characters? I don't
I
understand.
don't
Anyway,
know. Same.
so my worst moment originally, until I got to the end of the episode, was the introduction of C-3PO and R2-D2 because I thought it was too easy, and then it looks like they're smarter than that. So I'm pulling that back. I don't guess I've got. I guess the only thing, this isn't even a moment. I am bothered, and we've only seen it one time so far, and I don't know if there'll be any explanation for it. I don't know how I feel about an energy slingshot.
Yeah, that's something that I kind of worry about. Not worry about, wondered about too. But I was rolling with the episode so much, I was just like, yeah, I guess I'll let it slide.
I know, me too. Here's the like. Can I can I say this really quick? Because I
Oh
think
yeah,
it's funny.
sure.
Here's the thing about slingshots. Okay, when you give like an outcast, roguish kid. I mean, this is like Aladdin kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Riff Raff Street Rat. When you have a character like that, who has a slingshot. This goes all the way back to stuff um like a Mark Twain. It's when you give them a weapon like that, it's like a crude makeshift kind of weapon. The slingshot is a thing that we've done with lots and lots of characters like that, and other things like slingshots, bows and arrows, other things. They have something like that because they had to build it with their own hands, and that's the only way they can protect themselves. It breaks down when you make it an energy weapon. I feel like so it feels hokey. It feels like the one really cartoony hokey thing to me, where it's a slingshot because roguish like kid street rat characters have slingshots. But it's like, how's it powered? Where did he get it? It doesn't make any sense at all. Anyway, I just want to throw that out there. I think the idea of an energy slingshot is really hokey.
If they kind of explain that he made it himself in some way, that will make it work better. But yeah, I think you have a point there. That is kind of wacky. Um,
They could make it work, but just introducing it, I'm like, what?
yeah, yeah, you do have a point there.
Okay, so obviously with this series, everything else we do discussion so far is shows based on comic books. We won't have comic book references, but we can talk about cool like Star Wars tidbits, callbacks to things, any tidbits or interesting things that people might not have picked up on that you'd like to mention, Dan.
Um, I mean, you know, I can't really think of anything other than the immediately apparent stuff. I think this show is doing a very good job of. I mean, we get C-3PO and R2-D2 in like the second episode. That's not part of the pilot, but I think the show is very smart in that it's focusing on its characters and not the novelty of look, we're in a Star Wars show, so we're going to use all of these characters and references because we can. Like I don't know, I didn't really notice too many things other than Senator Organa shows up, C-3PO and R2-D2. I recognized some of the alien species and like saw that they were speaking their native tongues, which was good to see, but that's kind of to be expected. Um, I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot where I was like, oh, that's not immediately obvious. Like Tarkin gets mentioned, which was cool. I hope we see Grand Moff Tarkin in the show.
Me
Actually,
too.
that would be awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. You had little things like, I mean, this is obvious, but I was surprised to see it, like the holographic chessboard.
Yes,
That's in
that's
there.
really
There's little
important.
there's little stuff like that I thought was kind of neat that they put in there. Do you have any predictions right off that you haven't mentioned yet?
Predictions. I kind of hope that one of the characters that's force sensitive in the crew struggles with the dark side at some point and almost falls or does fall. Um,
Yeah.
how cool would it be if Ezra, we have this kid who gets trained as a Jedi, and we turn the typical story on its head, and he falls to the dark side.
Oh God. And if they continue to make me like him like I already kind of do, that would be gut wrenching, wouldn't it?
It would. It would be good. It would be good drama, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. No, no, that'd be cool. Well, yeah, and then of course, you'd have an immediate contrast, and you could say that Luke Skywalker is better than Ezra.
Yeah, and we have to kind of make the distinction between these characters and the crew of the Millennium Falcon at some point, right? Like in some way, those are the people that are destined to rid the galaxy of the Empire. Like these people are going to succeed at organizing the rebels, but they're not going to really accomplish anything other than that in the end, I suppose, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So I think that would be an interesting way to go. Either that, or I think one of the crew members should die. Um, and
Yeah,
I think we should, because like that's one of the things that people really resisted about a lot of things like this, right? Like Star Wars, Han Solo, Harrison Ford all the time says that yeah, Han Solo should have died in Jedi, and I think that might have fit. And we talked about that when we were doing our commentary. That might have fit with the story they were trying to tell. Um, and then you get to Harry Potter. All three main character members survive that just because they're the main characters of the story. I think it would be interesting to make you like these people. You go on this journey with these people, and then one of them goes out like to sacrifice themselves or something. I think that would be interesting.
ironically, they finally start doing it in the prequels when they kill off Qui-Gon, but I didn't know enough about that guy to care.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, unfortunate, yeah. But no, no, you're absolutely right. Like, and the thing is, because of the Qui-Gon thing, I think if they kill off Kanan, it's too obvious.
Yeah, I think
He's the guy that has to survive. I think, just because that seems to be too. I think like. I think I'm with you. Let's just make this show as dark as humanly possible. So what we do is we turn Ezra to the dark side, and then we kill off the only artistic person in Star Wars.
I think the most effective person to kill off once they develop her more would probably be Hera because she's the glue of the group.
Yeah.
Um,
Although I don't know why, I right off get the sense that she's going to be the character that will be the least developed.
you think
I
so?
don't know if I don't know why I'm thinking that. It just seems like she's kind of like the glue that holds it all together, which would make it really easy for her to just be kind of the foundation. And so she's not that interesting. She's just necessary, and so we don't
Right.
do a lot with her. I don't know. I guess we'll see. But you're right. That would be like be kind of like a wash thing. By the way, I meant to say this at the very beginning. This is kind of Firefly meets Star Wars.
Yeah, it is in a lot of ways, right? Like the altruistic kind of captain that steals stuff because he thinks it's because it's what he has to do. That's
Yeah,
true.
he's going up against an oppressive empire. He wishes that he didn't have to steal and stuff to survive, but he does, and so he's a conflict there. And Kanan kind of reminds me a little bit of if Mal used to be a Jedi. Like I kind of had that. So
I
I don't
would
know.
love to see Nathan Fillion as a Jedi. That would be fantastic.
That would be fantastic. I think Zeb is a little bit Janish. Like I think there are maybe more analogous. These characters may be more analogous to Firefly than they are to the original characters in Star Wars.
I have to sit down and watch that show at some time because I watched Serenity last weekend with some of my friends and I thought it was awesome. I loved
Was
it.
that the first time you'd ever seen it? Oh
Yeah.
God, man! I can watch Firefly. Yeah, Serenity is one of my favorite films. It's fantastic.
But anyway, we're not talking about Star Wars anymore.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Okay, so let's go ahead and do trivia, and then we're out. Dan, what was your? Do you have a trivia question for this week, sir?
Let's see. I didn't write one down, but you can say yours and I might think of one off the top of my head.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah. By the way, we weren't as prepared for this as we usually are. We were really on the fence about whether we were going to do categories for this first one, but I did write down a trivia question, Dan. So I'll go ahead and throw it out. This one's pretty easy if you were paying attention to the episode. This is, of course, from the episode, and the question is, what is the box with Obi-Wan's hologram called? What's the box called? It has a
What's in the
name.
box?
What's in the box? Well, we know what's in the box. So that's my question.
My question is, since we mentioned Darth Maul before, this kind of question pops in my head. I hope we see this race of people at some point in the series because they're one of my favorite Star Wars races. What race is Darth Maul?
Oh, good stuff. All right. If you think you know the answer to either of these trivia questions, you can send it to me in a personal message on Geekvolution, or go to geekvolution.com, go to the contact page, and send it through the form there. And whoever gets these questions correct first will be mentioned on next week's episode. Yeah, we're going to keep doing this. Star Wars discussions, regular stuff. Me and Dan, Star Wars discussions and Flash discussions. I'm so excited about it. Dan, we're spoiled this year, pal.
Oh, I know. I see. Like last season of TV, the only thing I was watching was Agents of Shield, and like for a long time that show was just okay. I am so pleased that the pilots of two things that I was really looking forward to, like almost cautiously, because you know, I wasn't sure how Flash was going to go, and this is a Star Wars thing post prequel, so you're always kind of trepidatious. I love both of them. I'm so excited.
Everybody, thanks as always for listening. We sure hope you enjoyed it, and we are looking forward to more. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
See you again next week.